I'm Andrea Giles, and you're listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, episode number 43, Regret. Hello, and welcome to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. I'm back with episode number 43. So I'm just going to jump on in today, okay? So regret. That's what we're talking about today. Regret is something that you've heard me talk about before on this podcast here and there. It's an emotion, but I've never devoted a whole podcast to it, and I thought that it was time, okay? I hear a lot about it. I hear a lot about regret. I hear it from my clients. I hear it from just people that I talk to, fears about feeling regret, worried about it, regretting things that they think should be different. And so I thought that I would discuss this in detail today. I'm going to talk to you today about where regret can be useful, where it can be damaging, and how to use regret in your favor, okay? It really can be both. It can be both a useful emotion and an indulgent emotion. You've heard me talk about indulgent emotions before. They are emotions that keep us stuck, that don't serve a purpose. When used in certain ways, regret can become that, and I'll explain the difference. I'm going to share some real client experiences to demonstrate how the emotion of regret can be both useful and damaging. Now, while I am talking about regret today, I want you to watch your own brain, okay, while I'm talking. I want you to notice, where is regret holding you hostage, keeping you back from moving forward? Is it keeping you stuck? I'm going to show you what that looks like, how to watch for that, okay? Of course, I'm going to give you some tools to help you know how to work with the emotion of regret, to help it kind of lose its grip so you can move forward. All right, let's go. So regret is a very common human emotion. I'm sure you all have heard people say before, I have no regrets. And you know what? I don't believe them. I think it's a lie. I think when people say that, what they mean is that they've learned to manage the emotion of regret, the feeling of regret, and work through it and move through it. But guess what? Regret is an emotion that most of us will feel at one time or another throughout our lives. Let's talk about where regret shows up. It can be past-based and future-based. We can look at things we have done or not done and regret them. When is this useful? Let me give you some examples, okay? The thought of feeling regret in the future can be useful when you decide that you're hungry and you're looking in the fridge trying to decide what to eat. You see chips and dip and you decide you want that. But you can use the thought, I don't want to regret eating that, so I'm going to make a different decision, okay? This is something I like to think of. What will my future self thank me for? So rather than fearing, I might regret it, I might feel regret, you can shift it to, what will my future self be so grateful that I did for myself right now in this moment? Will my future self say thank you for not eating the chips and dip and giving yourself a bellyache? Probably. Now, you're here because you have experienced some form of betrayal in your marriage, some kind of infidelity. Let's say your spouse says something to you that feels hurtful. You might have a real zinger, right? Something that you want to say that feels very true, but that you know would sting. You want to match hurt with hurt. You feel hurt, so you want to hurt back. But is that who you want to be? Sometimes thinking about regretting something in the future can help you make a quick decision in the moment, like, ooh, I don't want to regret that. I don't want to regret saying that. Now, we might look at our past and regret some of the decisions that we made. How can that be useful? Regret can serve as a really valuable teacher. It can show us where we can grow. It can show us how we can improve. It can show us areas that maybe were blind spots to us that are no longer a blind spot. It can instruct us. So when is regret harmful? I'm going to give you some examples. I recently had a conversation with somebody that I really care about, who was in the midst of making some really, really big decisions in her life. And she asked if she could talk to me. And so I said, of course. And she called me and we had a conversation. And what came up for her is that with this decision she was making, she was afraid that she was going to have regrets. She was afraid that she was going to miss something or get something wrong. And I asked permission to kind of help her through it. And what we realized is that that fear of regretting was keeping her from making the decisions she needed to make. The fear of regret was keeping her frozen in a state of paralysis of going, what if I get it wrong? What if I get it wrong? And she also was missing the opportunity to feel the joy surrounding this decision that she was making. She was robbing herself of it by creating problems for herself ahead of time. And so how I helped her is in saying, okay, what if you do have some regrets? So what? What if down the road you go, in hindsight, I would do it this way, or I would have taken this part out. So what? It only means what you make it mean, right? We all have things that we would do differently because we are at a different place now than we were when we made the decision we made, right? It's not a problem. It's only a problem if we make it a problem. It's only a problem if we give it so much power and weight. Now, I see this with my clients a lot. They can be so afraid of feeling regret, of getting it wrong, that they stay in a relationship that they are well aware of is not healthy. Or they stay in a relationship without being willing to put the necessary pressure on the relationship to change because they're so afraid of getting it wrong, of showing up in the wrong way, of saying the wrong words. So sometimes they don't do anything. This is something I see a lot in people who are interested in working with me before they actually start. They're so afraid of getting it wrong and then having regrets that they are not moving at all. They go round and round in the pain they're sitting in, waiting for something to change, for the other shoe to drop, something. Anything to help them avoid having to make a hard decision and then possibly feel regret later. They want to avoid regret. Now, again, what I say to both of those examples is what's wrong with feeling regret? It's a human emotion. It's one of the many that we experience. It's only a problem if you use regret to punish yourself rather than to help yourself learn. Using it to beat yourself up for making the mistake rather than deciding what you want to learn from it and how you want to change moving forward is keeping you stuck. We can feel it, we can learn from it, and we can let it go. One of the traps we set for ourselves with regret is blaming ourselves. It's never useful, though. Blaming ourselves is never useful. It's completely past focused rather than future focused. And I can promise you that all the best things are out in front of you. Blame keeps us from creating that amazing life that we want. Hanging out in regret and blaming ourselves keeps us from the very life that we want. I heard this quote recently in preparation for this podcast. It said, "A man is not old until regrets take the place of dreams." So with that in mind, how old are you? Do your regrets fill up your space or do your dreams fill up your space? Which one are you letting win out? Are you spending more time living in the past, wishing things were different? Or are you spending your precious, precious brain power crafting a future that you can't wait to live in? One that you want to live in. Now, something else to look for is when others try to pass on their feelings of regret to you. So, for example, when I was going through divorce, I had well meaning people say to me, "Why did you stay so long? You knew that there were these issues. Why did you stay so long? Oh, I bet you wish you didn't marry him." Like, well meaning people, right? Guess what? That's their thought. If I wanted to, I could borrow their thought. I could judge myself for self for staying. I could make it mean that I was weak. I could regret staying. I could regret marrying him. Or guess what? Or I can decide that I left right on time. I had all the experiences and all the understanding that I needed to make the decision that I needed to make right when I made it, right on time. It was always going to play out that way. I always was going to marry him. How do I know I needed to? That it was the correct decision? Because it's the decision I made. I make the decision correct by the way I choose to think about it. I want to give you some useful thoughts to try on when you look at events from your past. It was always meant to happen this way. Even more than that, it was always going to happen this way. It was always going to happen this way. I just didn't know it. I was always going to make that decision. That was the perfect lesson for me. I will start now so I don't regret not starting later. Now, back to the one that was the perfect lesson for me. Find the lesson. Okay, find it. Why was it the perfect lesson for you? What did you learn? How are you smarter and wiser now than you were before that? Put your brain to work and find it. It's so much more useful than just wallowing and hanging out in blame and shame and all those things, right? Find the lesson and move on. Go to the future. What decisions do you want to make now to prevent regret in the future? What is in your control? Now, here's the thing. Despite our best efforts, regret sometimes comes along for the ride. We might have some regrets in the future. We can live intentionally and craft the life that we want and show up the way that we want. And guess what? We're still human. We're still fallible. We're still going to mess up sometimes. We might feel regret. So what? What if it's not a problem? What if you get to feel the regret, look for the lesson, and move on? I can tell you this. I can look back on my life. I became a mother very young. I was 21. I now have that son that was my firstborn is married now. My youngest kids are 12-year-old twins. Guess what? I'm a much more relaxed mother to those 12-year-old twins than I was to him. Why? Because I know more. I'm more mature. I have more experience. I can look and see plenty of things that I could have done differently. I'm different with them at 12 than I was with him at 12. Now, I could sit around berating myself and punishing myself, or I can look to the future and decide, what do I want to learn from those things? What are the things in the relationship with my son that I wish I would have done differently but didn't? But what can I do now? Here's the thing. When we're wallowing in the past and hanging out in the past, we're robbing ourselves of the massive power that we have now. My son's 22 years old. I can still have influence, right? I can still love him. And to be fair, I feel like I've been a pretty good mom to him. But of course, I've learned things. Of course I have. And I can use those things moving forward to be the kind of mother that I want to be now. I can use them as useful intel for who I want to be in the future. So let me ask you this. Are you living with a lot of regret? Maybe wishing you married a different guy and then things would be so much better? Wishing you learned these things younger in life? Do you regret not having seen the signs that something was off earlier? Let me ask you this. Is it useful? Is it serving you to keep coming back to it? Is it helping you to move forward, to relive the regret over and over? I found this little quote by Jennifer Aniston. She says, "There are no regrets, just lessons." It might start out as the initial sting of regret. It might. But we can use those experiences that start out with a feeling of regret and turn them into lessons that we maybe would not have learned any other way. What if we take those lessons and turn them into gifts and thank ourselves for being such wise teachers? Thank you for this lesson. I see that I could not have learned it any other way. For me, I think what I would regret in the future is not going all in on myself now, playing small, hiding, not doing the work to become the next version of myself. I know I'd regret holding on to the things that I know need to be let go of and working towards those things. What are you regretting? What can you find as the lesson and choose to let go? And how can you leverage the emotion of regret to build the future that you want, to take the action that you want? Remember this, in the end, regret is just an emotion. There is no emotion that you need to be afraid of. You are not your emotion. You are not regret. You are whole and good and strong and capable. And guess what? Sometimes you will feel regret and it's okay. Nothing has gone wrong. Learn the lesson, identify what it is, see if it's keeping you stuck, let it go, and look to the future you and what you want to build, who you want to be there to leverage the lessons that you've learned. Go build that life. Get yourself unstuck. Don't be afraid to make bold decisions because you might feel regret. You might get it wrong. My friends, you're allowed to get it wrong. You're allowed to feel regret. It only keeps hurting you if you keep letting it hurt you. You are bigger than your feelings. All right, my friends, that's what I have for you today. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.